Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight we are going to be talking Geddy Lee. We're going to be talking about Geddy Lee's book tour. We've either been to the Detroit or Chicago shows. Wonderful event. We're talking about my Effin Life. So let's
talking bands no one talks about. Grant's Rock Warehouse.
Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and I have assembled a panel here, and this is a great panel because we've all been through this event together. And I'm talking about Geddy Lee's book tour on his, there you go, his book tour, My Effin Life. There's a group here, Grant, Todd, Lana, and Paul. We were all in Chicago, and Tom here is representing Detroit. So we've all come together to talk about our experiences of the show because just real quick before I start going around. So in our event, we had Kim Thrale, MC, do the interview with Geddy, and it was wonderful. It's almost like if you couldn't go to this event, it was almost like you were there. It was like a one-on-one, like you're attending an interview with Geddy, and everybody is just so casual and loose. It was really a wonderful experience. So I got this group together just to kind of reminisce. The Chicago show was on December 3rd. And when I came up with this idea, I just blurted it out. I go, hey, we should have a discussion on my show. Oh boy, how cool would that be? But we should have did it right then because we're recording this on January 9th. Hopefully we can all remember something. But I think we all can because all these people here are professionals, for God's sakes. But anyway, yeah, so I've got Tom Curlis, I've got Paul, I've got Alana, I've got Todd Evans here. Let's just talk about it. I don't know, Tom, let me throw it over to you. What were your initial thoughts on the whole thing? Did you also feel that it was very intimate? First of all, what kind of venue were you in? Because we were in the Auditorium Theater in Chicago, built, gosh, 1800, early 1900s, Paul? I don't
around there, yes.
Did he was he in a similar venue in Detroit?
Yes, pretty similar. It was at the Fillmore. It's not as old, but it's very similar to the auditorium in the way it's laid out. Because I spent 12 years in Chicago, so I've been to the auditorium, and yeah, it's beautiful, great theater, and so is the Fillmore. I mean, the Fillmore is really nice. It's not, and the Fox and the Fillmore are kind of right downtown Detroit, and they're pretty close to each other actually. It was a great event. I mean, I loved it. I mean, it was like you said, it was so intimate. You could tell everybody there just loved being there. I mean, the whole place was just filled with warmth.
Yeah.
And our special guest was Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who signed in as Will Ferrell. So it was kind of a, everyone was Will Ferrell. And then it was like, okay, no,
Chad Smith.
It was Chad Smith, but he was great. He did a great job. And I think I've seen a couple videos on YouTube with different hosts and stuff, and it all kind of follows the same flow where, the guest signs in and then he comes out, and then usually they tell like a brief story of why they're a Rush fan. I don't know if Kim did that, but Chad came out and he just started pacing the stage a little bit and talking about, hey man, when I was growing up in Dearborn, Michigan, and I was playing drums and various local bands, and he's like, when I was a teenager in high school, he's like, I had this tiny little drum kit, but I tried to make it as close as I could to Neil Peart's kit. And he's like, it was a poor man's Neil Peart, and he said, trying to learn those fills, like, those fills from 2112. And he said, of course, his introduction to Rush was 2112. He said an older brother's friend or something like played the album for him. It just blew his mind. And he said, ever since then, I've been a stone cold Rush fan. And I mean, if you're a drummer, how could you not be a Rush fan? So he's one of those. And he did a great job, great introduction. And then he introduced Geddy, and the place went nuts. And, Geddy came out and it's just funny because you notice that he'll just say at some point, they'll just start talking randomly and they say, okay, why don't we sit down? And then they have a couple of chairs, there, and you guys, so I'm sure it was the same setup for you guys. Yeah. And then you just start chatting, and it was just so, like you said, it was so intimate. And Chad did a great job with the questions. He didn't step on answers or let Geddy talk a lot, which was great. And people was funny. I don't know if this happened in Chicago, but people would randomly shout out stuff. Like on occasion, you get like a rowdy guy.
We did.
Start yelling out something about passage of Peacock or something, blah, blah, and he would just like ignore it. He'd acknowledge it at all. It was great. He just didn't acknowledge anybody shouting out. It was great. Except for maybe once all night. because somebody said they were at a show or something, so he did talk to them. But he was funny when people got too rowdy. He would just make some comment and then keep talking, and without acknowledging it. So he did a great job. The guy's a pro. He knows how to handle a crowd. So, but it was great. You guys, we were talking about this earlier, and it's like, he got emotional a few times, and he's obviously a very emotional guy. And anytime he starts talking about Neil, he starts tearing up.
Yeah.
It's like his brother. His brother is gone, and it just every time he starts talking in depth about Neil, he starts at some point he can't talk and he kind of chokes up, and it just hits you right here when he's doing that, and it's like, wow, this guy. Geddy is such a great guy. He's such a cool guy.
Yeah.
And that was the feeling I had when I walked out of this show. I was like, what a cool. I mean, this guy is like a world-class premier musician. I mean, it's just like, if you're a musician, it's just like, any bass player is just like bow down. But he's also a coolest dude on the planet. Like, you feel like you could just sit down and have a beer with him,
Yeah, very down to earth,
So
there's no hang-ups. There's no rock star hang-up type of thing,
no, not
ego
at
or
all.
anything. He's just a regular guy. Like,
Not at all. And it's so cool. That's what makes me like Rush even more, right? It just makes you love him even more. And I dragged my daughter to this show. It's another thing I got to talk about. So there's no way my wife was going to go with me. She hates Rush, hates it. Anytime I put it on, it's like, turn it off. I hate this. Whatever this is, turn it off. I tried to get her into Fountain of Lamneth, and it just did not work. So I started with Caress of Steel. It's probably a bad idea.
That's probably the one you probably shouldn't have started.
Probably.
Probably should start with like Hold Your Fire or something. But yeah.
Little Amy Mann action, that would probably help.
Yeah, totally.
Zen,
Like, remember Till Tuesday? Remember that band? Remember
There you
Voices
go.
Carry?
So does the daughter like, how old is your daughter?
My daughter is 20.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Is she into Rush at all, or she just went, I'll go with Dad? And
I'm working on it. I'm working hard to get her into Rush. And I made sure that she watched Beyond the Lighted Stage, and which she enjoyed. And then, because she's a music person, she loves music, and I said, you got to at some point you got to get into Rush. I got to get you into Rush. So she likes moving pictures. She's pretty into moving pictures, and she saw a Neil Peart video where he did like he's doing like a solo, and she's like, oh my God, he's unbelievable. I said, yeah, he's unbelievable, and you got to start listening to Rush to really appreciate him. And so anyway, I dragged her to this. And she was up for it. She's game. She's one of those people. She's just game for anything. Okay, Dad. All right, let's go. Sounds good. Something to do. Let's go.
Yeah.
So we go into Detroit. We get some dinner, and then we go over there. We walk over there, and as soon as you walk in, they hand you a book, and she's like, "Oh, cool, a book, like a free book." Like, yeah. And so she was excited about that. But she felt the same way. To make a long story short, she felt the same way about when she walked out of the place. She felt like, wow. What a cool guy, and what great stories, and wow, it makes me want to listen to Rush. I want to start hearing what he's talking about, because he starts doing those things where he's talking from the book and he starts telling the stories, and she thought that was pretty cool, and she just thought it was a great event. She's like, this is really well done. And I said, yeah, Geddy Lee doesn't do anything half-assed. I mean, it's always, he does, yeah. If he's doing it, it's going to be good, right?
Right.
So I'm going on and on here, but
all right, you're good.
That's a little bit of my experience in Detroit. It was great.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Paul Simon, I might as well throw it over to you. What were your thoughts on it, on the whole experience?
Obviously, I loved it, but not just in a blanket, it's Geddy way. I think it served a bunch of purposes. It was very smart timing, not just because, yes, he's promoting the book, I get it, but you could tell there was a time period where, and during the lockdown as well, and pandemic, but as he was reflecting, and he told a little bit of the story as far as how this started off as kind of a give and take correspondence about telling old stories, and suddenly, these should be compiled. It was suggested to him, and that's how the book pretty much came together. And then finding lost demos and the two songs that were the demos that weren't on original My Favorite Headache from 2000, and they actually fit really well with the stories in the book, Gone and I Am You Are. But that being said, it wasn't just to promote the book tour, because you could tell, again, from the way Tom's described it, with the feel of it, that's him for starters. So there's nothing disingenuous about it. But he did tell a story that sort of sets up my thought on it, which was there was I don't remember which tour, but he and his wife Nancy were in a car leaving. It was either a UK gig or a Germany gig. I can't remember which. He does say it in the book. But the Rush fan club from Italy had traveled all from Italy to whichever country, and his first instinct was to, okay, him and Nancy get in the car, get the heck out of there. And it really weighed on him. It bothered him so much that these people had come all this way for something as simple as an autograph or a handshake or a hug or a picture. And he goes, notwithstanding, definitely keep boundaries with the fans, and the whole limelight idea, can't pretend a stranger's a long-awaited friend. But that being said, these people appreciate what he's done and have put him where he's at. So he felt that he needs to give something back, and that's what started off his and Alex's mentality as far as the meet and greets go, where they're always gracious, quick, short, yes, thank you, heartfelt, but there's a lot of people to get through, so thank you very much. We do appreciate it, and glad you appreciate us. So you really had that vibe here. And then the stories told, as has been already alluded to, was they ran the gamut. I mean, the first hour and 15 minutes or hour and 10 minutes, whatever it was the interview with us, obviously Kim Thale from Soundgarden, Park Forest's very own south suburbs of Chicago. But and we'll get back to who the money was on who was going to be the host. So that was a great. Well, we have to go back to that, but having Kim there, he was a fantastic interviewer. The give and take was excellent. He I don't want to stray too much off that, but the point is, the second half, after a short, brief intermission, was audience questions submitted through Rush.com. My best laugh of the night was from a guy by the name of Joe Esch. I posted the footage on my YouTube channel, and his son actually commented, which was pretty neat. His question was, my wife of 41 years has had this on the calendar for Geddy night or Geddy show, and she spelled it Getty. After 41 years of being married to me, she should know it's Geddy. My question for Geddy is this grounds for divorce? Place lost it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was a great moment.
Laughs were there, but as Tom alluded to, the probably the hardest moment for me to hear was when he was speaking about before the R40 tour. Alex had undergone surgery. He was dealing with the arthritis, and he had some internal issues as well. And Neil says, okay, group meeting, and including Ray Daniels, their manager. And so there they are. I don't remember if it was bedside with Al still in the hospital or right after he got out, but Neil says, I don't want to tour anymore. I want to appreciate my family and all that. And we all know how 1997, 98 was for Neil. And so he knew it was very important, but he wanted to get everybody's feel about that. And Geddy admitted, he's like, what? And so they asked Alex, who's, holed up in, post-surgery. And he goes, Alex's line was, I don't know how many more tours I have in me. And Geddy actually impersonates Neil fantastically, his speaking voice. And he goes, and Neil just went, fuck. Because he knew he had to do R40. Yeah. So that's why R40 was a very set number of shows, and that was it. And Neil was very specific about that, because then, okay, I'll give you what you're asking me, but then you give what I'm asking here. And Geddy admitted that he felt resentful about that, because R40 was such a great tour, and going over the old material, or their entire discography, or their entire history, I should say. And the Ray Daniels even said in interviews, that people are selling out and all that. It's like, we could book so many more of these. And no, this is it. And Geddy admitted to feeling resentful about that. Fast forward to, and he tells the story when he and Al and Ray are all notified about Neil's cancer diagnosis, his glioblastoma diagnosis. And everything just stopped. Outside of the shock of that announcement and that reality setting in, Geddy realized how selfish he had felt about wanting to keep going, and here who's someone who's already had one life cut short, or one life as he knew it interrupted. Now he wants to appreciate things, and then he finds out that his time is limited. And then he even went on to explain that the diagnosis was 18 months and he had 3.5 years.
That's amazing.
But Getty telling that story was so powerful because it was conversational. He wasn't sitting there at the podium. He did 2 book readings that were from the podium. That wasn't that one, but just in that very, as Tom described it, that lounge chair set up with the lantern and stack of books and all that very casual interview atmosphere was so impacting. I mean, yes, Getty knows theatrics. He's obviously a professional. But that being said, it was a give and take. It was a conversation. His voice broke. He took a moment to compose himself. He made a very brief, apology, and then he continued on. So you ran the gamut that night from a bunch of other topics that we'll talk about that were brought up. But those were the high and the, I don't say low, but those were the almost like the theater masks. That was one moment we're laughing hysterically, and one moment you could have heard a pin drop in the auditorium theater.
Totally. Yeah.
It was amazing.
Got really quiet. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. Awesome. So Atlanta, is there anything about that whole show that you came away with that you really enjoyed as a Rush fan? Or
Yeah, totally. So something that stuck with me, I was anticipating getting emotional hearing him talk about Neil and just his life in general. The slideshow of pictures that they had throughout, it was just so, like, it felt like you were looking in a personal family album, which it was essentially, like pictures of him and Nancy's wedding, pictures of Neil that I've never seen, pictures of the whole group I've never seen. But there's moments where it almost felt like I shouldn't be looking at this, but I'm so grateful that I get the chance to. And something that really I wasn't anticipating was the tour quality video footage of like transitions in the segments and everything else. It felt like I felt like I was at a Rush concert for a new leg of a Rush concert where the Time Machine visuals were so specific in my mind, and the Snakes and Arrows videos, R40 having great visual gags. So being able to see that aesthetic come to life again, I wasn't anticipating it, and I don't necessarily know why. But when it was like a whole production, I found myself getting choked up over that because it was an aspect of Rush that I'd never thought I'd be able to see new again. And so ditto to what Tom and Paul have said so far. It was so great to hear him talk. The stories that he shared were so funny. Alex blasting out a window on tour, and they invited them back and everything. Even, he apologized. But hearing about, Alex's resentment about being a dad on the road. And that's why he got in that drunken bender that night and picked a fight with somebody and this, that, the other thing. And it was just really cool to hear rock stars also be humans. And I think that was what really made that night more intimate kind of than any other concert I've seen, because it wasn't a concert. It was just rock stars being people. And I think that was really enticing, and anybody would enjoy that, I think.
Well, it does sound like they had a blast on tour. That story about the plane, the bong, what that Alec built that he could smoke pot out of. And I didn't know that Alex Lifeson was such a big pothead. But boy, the way they were talking during this whole program, it's like, my goodness, Alex Lifeson, who knew? But he made that bong, and oh my God, it's just funny. And the whole story, he was just totally intoxicated, knocking on the Getty's window, and like tearing apart his hotel room, and Getty's going, what is he doing over there on the other side? Because he was totally, what were they doing? Shots of, what were they doing shots of? Cognac or something like that. And you sip cognac. You don't do cognac as shot.
Wasn't it like a drinking contest with somebody from UFO or something like that?
Something like that.
And I think it was I think they were in London, and he was shouting out to traffic below them, like, hey, you're stupid. England's stupid.
England's stupid.
Yeah. So
British are stupid. Oh, I loved it. But it ring in the gamut of various emotions. One moment you feel emotional because Getty's upset about the whole Neil passing, but then the next time they're just talking about shenanigans, and it just sounds like they had a blast on the road. But I think another thing, I think it almost, I agree with you on this point too. It's almost like an extension of a Rush show, though we didn't have Alex or Neil here, but you did have Geddy there. But it still had that feeling that when you go to a Rush concert where you're one, everybody's there for It's like you're there with all your friends, like all the people that we were in our row with, everybody was friendly. You feel like you're there for an event, like you're sharing a moment. So it's got that same feel, even though it wasn't exactly musical related, but it was to some degree. It just, I don't know. It felt very warm, you know?
Totally.
Yeah. So
And
Todd Evans, what? Go ahead, Paul. Before we throw it over to Todd Evans.
The gamut of the topics ran the gamut
Oh
because
yeah, yeah.
baseball, music, art, everything was on childhood. I'll let Todd go into his, but just the fact they covered so many different things, everybody felt included. I don't know anything about baseball, so I learned that from this. But then, the some of the history I knew, most of the history I didn't know. So yeah.
But one I do want to mention while it's on my brain before we go over to Todd Evans is that we were talking about this before, and we thought, oh, who's going to host? And we were all out for dinner or whatever, and we thought it has to be Billy Corgan, has to be Billy Corgan, but it wasn't. I just find it funny, but we all naturally thought he'd be the perfect host because after all, he's a big Rush fan for one, but you never know. It was fine. Kim did a great job. It was,
or somebody from the Cubs or the White Sox, since he's such a big baseball fan. But then,
but I'm glad it was
I couldn't think of who that
musician,
could have been. So
because I'm glad it was more music related, because they would, if it was a baseball person, though he did have some sports figures, right, at some of his shows, correct?
I think so.
I don't know. I'm happy with who we had, and I'm sure Tom was happy with Will Ferrell.
Yeah. No, he was. Yeah, he did a good job. He was funny. He was really very engaging and funny. So
yeah, it was great. So Todd Evans, what'd you come away with? Anything particular that made a big impression on you at this show?
Well, the first thing I thought of when I was there, when we talk about our heroes that are in bands, and we think about, there are different levels of getting to know them, and so you listen to the music. And that's one level. And some people never get past that level. And then there's when I was a kid, this was back in the 80s, but I'm going to date myself, but I used to record all of those shows used to play on FM radio. I used to record Rockline and stuff like that. So then you get to hear Geddy talk. And, there's been some interviews lately. There was the interview with Geddy and Alex on the Strombo show in Toronto. And so that's another level where you think, oh, okay, well, I've listened to this guy have a conversation. He's a really nice guy. And so that brings you a little closer. But something like what we saw is a whole nother level, because you experience it firsthand. If you go to a show and I've heard Geddy speak, I've heard him say, hello, Atlanta, this is distant early warning or whatever. That's not the same as him sitting down in a comfy chair and somebody smart who's also a musician and asking him questions. That's just a whole other level. And it was endearing. He was warm and funny, and he was everything that I knew he was going to be. But one of the things that really made an impression on me, and I've started reading the book. I haven't finished it yet, but I just finished the chapter about his mother and his father and the rest of his family in Poland and in Germany during the war. And first of all, I know we're not talking about the book, but it's amazing how much of that Geddy remembers. It's absolutely amazing how he was able to tell that story with the names and the dates and everything. So, but anyway, at the show, it was really moving to hear him talk about that. And one of the really interesting things that happened in Chicago is that one of the fan questions, and I'm sure it was there was completely innocent motivation here, but one of the fan questions was, do you have any tattoos? And the way he handled answering that question, it was he was very to the point about why he doesn't have tattoos, because there are people in his family who do have tattoos, and so but the way the kindness that he showed in answering that in a very very thoughtful way was moving to me. And the whole thing was just a lot of fun. It was great to hear those two new songs, and so yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah, because the two new songs were great, and just the way that they carried the whole presentation too. Like Alana said, that slideshow in the beginning, it's like giving you a slice of his life. These are like family photos that you would never get to see. I was just staring at the screen the whole time. It would go around at once and I'd keep watching it because there were just such great photos and snapshots of tours and families, and
And I knew
just
it was going to be
wonderful.
good like that because Rush is one of those kinds of bands that never let you down. Every time you'd go see them, you'd be like, okay, there's going to be a whole bunch of great stuff that's going to happen. I know it because there always is, and they don't
Mhm.
ever let me down. So I knew that this show would be kind of like that too.
Well, and
Yeah.
everybody who would cheer when a picture of Neil would come up. It was just
Right.
like,
Yeah, that was really nice.
it
Yeah,
felt
that's
nice
nice.
to grieve with the fan base together.
Mhm.
Which I was anticipating that camaraderie a little bit, but what it really meant to me in that moment, it was awesome.
If you think about it, when they did show those pictures of Neil, no one really had any, gosh, that's kind of profound, Grant. I'm really not this smart, but it kind of gives you a bit of closure to some degree because you're able to all be here with like all these Rush fans and everybody, Geddy talking about Neil's passing and everything, because they really haven't had any kind of, I saw the R40. That was the last time I'd seen anything. And to be back with other Rush fans, I'm just going to say that everybody that was there, they're all hardcore Rush fans. Why would you not be there if you weren't? So it kind of gives you a bit closure to Neil's passing.
No,
I felt that.
totally. I felt the same way. It's almost like after R40, everything went quiet. And it was just like, what happened to, like, it's over. I guess it's over. Like they didn't talk, they didn't do anything, they didn't say anything.
Right.
And I think the whole fan base was sort of like, okay, maybe, I guess, because they were hinting that was the last tour. You sort of got hints that it was like R40 was going to be it. And so that's why I went to New Orleans to see that show. I met some
Cool.
friends, and we went to New Orleans and saw it. It was awesome. Loved it. And then, but like you said, everything went quiet, and it's really cool to hear Geddy opening up about all these stories. Like Paul was talking about how, the stories about when Neil said, okay, I'm done. Like you didn't hear any of this until now.
No.
Where like, okay, so, and how did you feel when, and it's like, I love when he talked about how at the end of the R40 tour where he was so proud of it, like you said, and he wanted to take it to Europe or whatever. And Neil's like, no, man, I'm done. Like, this is it. And he said it was the first time in the band where he felt like there was a division where it's like one guy didn't want to do what the other guys did, and he said it was just really weird to have one guy. He said Alex and I were getting depressed that it was ending, and Neil was getting happier.
Yeah.
He said that in our show too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said it was just so weird because it was like, and he said he had some resentment towards Neil because of all this. And so it's just, but then when he got sick, everything, the whole organization just went like, we're not going to talk at all. We're not going to say anything.
Mhm.
Well, and Geddy did the Big Book of Bass tour, the summer of 2019, 18. I don't remember. I think it was 2019, but I remember going to Barnes and Noble and hearing the questions with an earshot of, well, Neil's got to come around eventually. Neil's such a sourpuss. Neil's just blah, 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 blah. And I look back on that and just wonder how strong he had to be to put on that facade of like, oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. So him being able to actually talk about his feelings during that time too, just meant a lot to me as a fan. And also kind of gave me that validating pat on the back of like, why are you asking him about that? It's none of your business until they make it known. And it's just really nice to hear him be able to freely talk about that period of his life, because I'm sure it was hard, more than I could ever understand.
And getting back to that idea of catharsis, I agree with both, actually, what we've all said, and following along those same lines, is another thing I think that this actually was, after this period of silence and grieving, he was a very private person. We didn't find out for 3 days until after he passed in 2020. But after, Ged and Alex had a chance to, for starters, shock, absorb this, process this, all that. And then they did what they did, which was, start to enjoy a retirement. So whether it's mustard or pinball or a beer or whatever, but just kind of, okay, so this is the life that I'm going to appreciate because that's what Neil did as well. I'm not saying that was the only reason. They all are very similar minded. It's one of the reasons they're such great friends. But okay, so the lesson I'm taking out of this, and he mentions it in the book as far as, I'm going to be jumping all over the place, but I'm going to stay on point. In 97 and 98, when everything had happened and Rush was on hold, for lack of a better way of putting it, Robert Plant actually had made the recommendation to Geddy. He's like, look, I've been through similar circumstances in my life, and what I learned is that you have to get back out there and get living again. So taking that and making the parallel to 2020 and beyond. That's exactly what it seems they did. And now it's time to get back into what I mentioned earlier about that fan give and take and appreciation and the family feel, as we've all talked about. Now that's what one of the things that this is the idea of this tour felt like a template where it's like it serves so many purposes. It's getting back out there. It's understanding the fans need to grieve as well and enjoy each other and this and him and just Rush in general. So we got to do all those things. And then the one thing that it came up every show, and I love the way he handled it, was what next? He handled that with such articulation and eloquence. It was unbelievable. Was it? Yes, Alan, I would like to write together again. I'm going to be very careful on how I choose my words, but we will see. It's almost like a one day at a time thing. We don't know what life is not predictable, as we've all learned. So we'll see. But do Al and I want to write together again? Yes, we do. And that's where he left it. And I love that. So with all those other things that this book tour accomplished for us, for them, for all of us, it also was a great way to test the waters. And I'm not saying that was the intention, but wow, what a bonus. Because now look at it's like a Rush-assance. Like, Rush fans channel subscriptions are up and social media, it was everywhere. And, people they know they are still appreciated, they're still loved, all that. So I don't think for a minute that was the thought, but that is the afterthought is, yes, we still appreciate, if nothing else. We still want to. You always had the guy, that was the one thing, the universal complaint from all of us. Tom, you'd mentioned the shout outs, but ours was tour. Everything I recorded, everything we posted on the channel, all that. If there's anything I could have done some sound tricks with, it was getting rid of the guy 2 rows away from us yelling tour during unrelated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's up on the channel, footage we took, and the excellent footage that Vivian took in Toronto as well at Massey Hall. But just tour, okay, yes. And Kim and Geddy handled it the same way Chad and Geddy handled it in Detroit, which was, and we're saying this in the meantime. But yeah, sorry, rant over, but I want to make sure I got
No, you're good. But I think, at least what I got from it, I think that there's hope. I think Geddy and Alex will do something, but who knows when. But I think everybody will welcome it with open arms.
Well, there was one thing at the end of the Detroit thing where Chad, it was kind of weird. He kind of went off script a little bit, and you could tell Geddy was kind of like, "Where are you going with this?" He started kind of building up, he was saying things, and then finally he says, he kind of stopped and he goes, "Who wants to see Alex and Geddy together playing live again?" And the whole place like erupted, and Geddy was like, "Oh, okay, yeah," and he kind of like nodded his head, and that was it. They walked off. But it was kind of weird. I think it was sort of off script. I think he kind of just, I don't know, he got all excited and he yelled that out. And I don't know. But I don't know. I think something's going to happen with those two for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope so. Can't predict the future, but I don't know. We'll see. Well, I guess we could probably wrap this up. I think we've covered it pretty well. I think we all got a lot out of this event. Oh, wait a minute. What you got there, Paul?
You had thoughts about merch. So I'll show my one.
God,
but
yes, I do.
Me to remind you to talk about the merch situation in Chicago, Lee. So these are a set of Geddy Lee baseball cards, a 5-pack there. I didn't open mine, so that's
I
the
didn't
most.
even see those.
I didn't see those either.
I love how it says Geddy Lee base.
What did you buy? You bought those? What else did you get? You got a sweatshirt.
I bought this, and the back says my Effin Life 2023.
Okay. Well, that's the thing. I bought the poster. Now, I thought the event was absolutely wonderful. We all loved it. I just thought that the merch table could have been a little bit better run. That's all. Because if you buy a poster, they give you the poster, they give you plastic to put it in. You have to find somewhere in
station.
You have to, yeah, you have to find a place where you can go roll it. So, which is kind of a drag, roll the posters up for us and give them to us. I can't, but I did do it, but it took me several times to roll it.
Yes,
to get it right.
What are we talking about here? No.
But did you see that too, Tom? Did you buy like a poster or anything?
No,
did you buy any
didn't.
merch?
No, I didn't buy any merch. I just was like happy with the book and the little,
Yeah.
I got the book and the little, like Todd was showing the little, whatever it was, that little,
Program.
little booklet.
Yeah.
Oh, in the picture that it was available, the high res picture, because there's a spot for it in the program. That's why I just remembered it. Thanks.
Oh yeah.
There is a spot in the program where Geddy and the guest host posted a high res picture where.
Oh, that's where it goes.
Yeah.
Because I saw me throwing Shaco way in the back.
Oh, is that why he said to everyone smile and he took a picture? I got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
It says
Okay.
space reserved for tonight's group selfie. You'll
picture.
soon know what I mean.
Got it.
Yeah, but I'm like a sucker to buy any damn poster so I can put it up back here. I haven't got it dry mounted yet or framed or anything, but the poster that I bought, they had posters for each event. So they had special Chicago posters that they were selling.
Okay.
And they probably had a special Detroit one.
Yeah, they probably did. Yeah.
So I wanted to get the Chicago one instead of just the basic poster, since I don't know.
I was just going to say though, like just a thought before I forget is that
Sure.
Who else can do this? Like who else can do like a book tour and like sell out theaters across the United States? Like, I mean, it's just like, that was another thought I had driving home. I was like, only guys from Rush can do this. Like,
those tickets went fast too. We almost didn't get them.
Yeah.
We were worried that we were not going to get them.
Machine getting these tickets.
Yeah.
Well, what was the story? Those tickets were available through, what was the deal? I forget.
2 or 3 for pre-sales. There was through City Card, through Rush Fan Club, through City Card, and then there was one more, I thought, a third pre-sale. And that was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then Fridays when they went on sale to the general public. And what did we do? Blow the first one, got them through the second one.
We got them to the second one.
The whole batch. So, yeah.
Yeah, we were lucky to get in there.
And he kept saying, thank you for coming. I'm not even playing bass. Did he say that to you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not even playing and people are showing up.
Right. Yeah.
He probably was just surprised he would have such a, I don't know.
Okay, that's one thing I want to actually, that reminds me of something that fired a neuron that I want to address, was the one complaint before the show, and I never heard it after.
What was that?
Good, because I was ready. It was the only thing that actually made me irritated, not about the show, but about some of the fans. And this is me, and maybe I'm thin-skinned about it, was people kept saying, oh, we're paying such and such, and all we're getting is a book, quote, and it's not even autographed. How many people?
I didn't even hear that.
Oh, I heard that a lot. Whether it was in online forums, I heard a couple people before we went inside say it. But the minute we got in there, what I love was the fact that anybody who said that and then was present to see the setup realized how ridiculous and Herculean a task that would have been. His hand would have fallen off. Or why didn't he stick around to? Because there was X thousand number of people there.
Yeah, it'd be impossible.
And I'm looking at my book and it says USA $40, Canada $50. So it's not like a cheap gift.
No, it's a hardbound book.
I know.
Just everybody who walked in the door.
Got a book.
And matter of fact, one of our they handed Ryder Heiduck from when he went to the Ohio show, they handed him extra copies.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, it's not like anybody was, skimping or anything on this. Right. And then get back to the family thing. We had people after we posted on our channel about it who were like, I saw the three of you taking that picture. I was going to come up and say hi. And we're like, hey, why didn't you say hi? That's wonderful. But just that's the feel of this whole thing. That's one of the many things that made it so great.
It was awesome. It was fun.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yep. Super. Well,
I don't know how well you can see this, but
yeah, it's coming out. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
there
nice.
They are.
Nice.
I don't know why you're not in that photo, Grant. Did you take it?
I took it.
Ryan wanted.
Someone had to take it.
Yeah, Ryan wanted the admins.
Nice.
Yeah, that's fine. It's all good. All right. Well, I think we pretty much summed it up. It was a great event. And it was nice to just sit and talk about it because, it's not like I'm thinking about it all the time and just to reminisce. It was just such a wonderful night, I'm so glad I went,
Same here.
And thank you guys for coming to Chicago too. That meant the world.
Yeah, because I could have went to Cleveland for God's sakes.
We had a great weekend out of it. Record shopping on Saturday.
I know.
And a great dinner beforehand on Sunday. So that was one of the best weekends of my 2023 by far.
It was a blast.
Did you find any good records? Where'd you go record shopping?
We went to Dusty Groove and Shugas and Reckless and one more. What was the fourth one? Oh, I can't remember.
By the Walgreens.
Yeah.
Oh,
Reckless.
crap.
It was reckless.
Yeah.
Reckless was good.
Yeah.
Shugas was the, oh, there it goes. Shugas was the one that was really high priced, right?
That was the one that was really expensive. Yeah.
All right. I know we're on a
and Lori's
tangent, but
Planet
my
Sound we
God,
went
I
to.
could not
Yeah.
believe the prices. The first
Yeah,
place, what was the first place again? Remind me.
Dusty
That
Groove.
was Dusty Groove.
Dusty Groove was great.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. We're giving a props to Dusty Groove Records in Chicago. Top. Come on, do it.
There it is.
Top notch, ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen. It was incredible. Shuga, little high priced. I don't know what market they're trying. Oh, why is it not doing it? Whatever. I'm not sure what market they're trying to go for, but the records were, oh, I couldn't believe how much they were.
Oh
But
man,
yeah.
I've been to some places like that where you're like, what are you smoking? You're not gonna sell this for what? Like the price is just ridiculous.
They
There was
were
a
all
copy.
nice stores, all nice stores. I loved going to
Right.
all of them because I like going to record stores.
Yes, great staff, all that. Can't say enough about all the places we went to.
Oh,
But
it was great.
At Shuga's, there was a copy of the Rush debut that had $90 on it. And I was
And
like,
it wasn't a
that's a
first press,
$60 record all day long, but 90.
But how do you know?
For
Was it
sure.
a first pressing? Do we know?
Yeah, was it an original pressing or something?
Was
It may have
Moon?
been.
It wasn't. It was.
It may
and
have been.
It was a Mercury. It wasn't a Moon or anything.
Right.
Oh, there, I can go pull a Moon. Oh, I just don't get it. I'm old. I bought all my stuff in the 90s. What am I going to say? Well, anyway.
There's that time too. We're getting on a sidetrack. Last thing, there's that time when CDs were cool and vinyl wasn't, and you could get like vinyl for like nothing. Remember
That's when
that?
I
It was like
bought all of it.
Yeah, there was a time where you could get albums for like $3. It was like awesome.
Yeah.
Dollar records are now $7 records, or even more now, probably. If you go to Shugas, which one is it? Shugas? A dollar record is now a $65 record.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's fine. It was all fun. What a great weekend. All right, everybody. We'll wrap this one up. I want to thank Tom, Alana, Paul, and Todd for coming on tonight and just having a good discussion. Please like, subscribe. If you went to my Effin Life, the book tour, the Geddy Lee book tour, tell us, what did you like about it? There you go. We all loved it. It was a great night. But yeah, let us know in the comments. Did you go see it? Do you like it? Do you think Geddy and Alex are gonna go back out? Do you think they're gonna get back together? Let us know. We just like to talk music here in the warehouse. So all right. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.